What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the numbers. This is my betting breakdown video for UFC 289. We got Amanda Nunes going against Irene Aldana.
I need all the wins, yeah. Harder than all that is. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out.
And we are back with another betting breakdown video. This week breaking down a pay-per-view in UFC 289. We got an 11-fight card to talk about. And yeah, I think it's a pretty solid card from a betting perspective, especially. I do have 15 units on the line, which is my second biggest card of the year. Lots of bets, lots sticking out. So let's see if we can hit some bets, see if we can have a good night, and enjoy these fights. I think it's going to be a very solid card, very solid main card. Looking forward to it. Honestly, I think this card's getting slept on a little bit. There's some fights that I'm not too excited about, but there's some fights I'm really excited about, so definitely looking forward to it. So I am getting this video out super early, so I think we'll beat some line movement. Already beat a decent amount of line movement thus far, so getting it out early. I will be on a cruise from Thursday to like Monday, so I will be not available for the next several days. I did do my UFC Vegas 75 breakdown. That'll be coming out within the next day or so as well. So be on the lookout for UFC Vegas 75 early breakdown. Wanted to tape everything, get everything done before I went on the cruise so I can kind of enjoy it, relax a little bit. So I've been working my butt off these last couple days, honestly, and hopefully it pays off. So we're really looking forward to it. I'm feeling pretty good about this card. But yeah, other than that, if you guys can please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. It is much, much appreciated. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on some early content for UFC Vegas 75, which is another good card next week. With all that out of the way, I say we get into it. Let's break down these fights from a betting perspective. And let us start with the first fight of the card. We have Diana Belbita going against Maria Oliveira. We have about a pick'em here. Oliveira opened up minus 130. And Belbita was sitting at plus money for a little bit. I was actually tempted on Belbita at plus money. Probably should have pulled the trigger. It's just I didn't really want to, put any money on the fight. But I think Belbita at plus money was probably the way to go. Now that plus money's gone, I'm not as intrigued on the Belbita side. I think it's a close fight. I think it's a fight that does go the distance. I think it's going to be a very close fight on the feet. What I like about Belbita is the volume, potential wrestling upside, potential to get it to the match because Oliveira has struggled with the takedowns, the get-up game. I think it's a close fight. We got Belbita, who does, I believe, live in Canada, so maybe that helps her out in a close fight. I want to take Belbita, but like a greasy decision. Plus money, I was tempted. Now that she's like minus 110, minus 115, I'm not as tempted. I will not be betting on this fight, but if you got Belbita at plus money, I think that was probably the way to go. But I'll be staying away from the first fight of the night here. Next, we got David Dvorak going against Steve Erceg. We got David Dvorak. He opened up as a pretty massive favorite on some books. I think it was like DraftKings who had Erceg at like something crazy, like plus 285, like something crazy for the Steve Erceg money line. Now Erceg's down to like plus 235, and yeah, I was impressed with Steve Erceg. I really was, but I mean, this is a tough matchup for him. Not only is this his fight on short notice, he's taken a big step up in competition here against David Dvorak. Stylistically, seems like a tough matchup for him. So it's a matchup where, yeah, I think Dvorak wins, but laying minus 275 on David Dvorak's not something I really want to do. Parlaying up David Dvorak is not really something I want to do. No parlays for me this week. 14 bets, no parlays. So yeah, I mean, it's a pass fight for the most part. I don't really want to mess around with the total because both guys are super tough. Both guys have 5 losses, only one of those coming by finish. So nothing really sticking out here from a money line perspective, a prop perspective. It's going to be another pass for me. Don't worry, I have a ton of bets on this card, but these first two fights are just fights I want nothing to do with. All right, let's get into some action here. Blake Builder, Kyle Nelson, and this is where my night starts. And I have the under 2.5 rounds, 1.5 units, minus 134. I have Blake Builder wins in round 2, 0.25 units, plus 575. I have Blake Builder wins in round 3, 0.25 units, quarter unit shot at plus 1,000. And yeah, I think violence is a good spot. So in all transparency, I have been losing money on Kyle Nelson unders as of late, right? I had a bet on the Kyle Nelson, Jai Herbert fight doesn't go. That didn't work out. Jai Herbert showed up. Well, he didn't show up. He showed up to the fight, but he didn't show up in the fight, if you know what I'm saying. And then Doo Ho Choi came back off of a massive layup, layoff and didn't show up. I mean, didn't do much. He didn't push a pace. We see it in the past, like in every other Kyle Nelson fight, when there is a pace that is being pushed, any pace whatsoever, that is not a snail's pace like it has in his last 2 fights. He gasses out. He tires out. We saw Billy Q break this guy. We saw Carlos Diego Ferreira break this guy. This guy can be broken. He can get tired. He can gas out, and he can get finished down the stretch. He got finished in the second round, I believe, against Carlos Diego Ferreira, and then he got finished in the third round against Billy Q here. I think there's some recency bias here. I really do, because like I said, Jai Herbert pushed no pace whatsoever. Jai Herbert was worried about his chin, worried about getting knocked out. And then Doo Ho Choi came in and didn't push any pace whatsoever. You got to push a pace against Kyle Nelson, and that is exactly what Blake Bilder is going to do. With that said, though, I do have some serious concerns early on about Blake Bilder. I think he's very hittable. We've seen him dropped a ton in his career. So I think Kyle Nelson, early finish upside, but as this fight goes on, I do expect Blake Bilder to take over, really put it on Kyle Nelson, and eventually get him out of there. So I like the under 2.5 first and foremost. If I lose another Kyle Nelson under, it'd be 3 in a row. So hopefully Bilder goes out there and fights unlike Jai Herbert. And like Jai Herbert landed only 36 strikes in that fight. Doo Ho Choi landed only 50, right? I think Bilder's going to go out there and make this an actual fight, make it a dog fight. And dog fights is something that Kyle Nelson just does not succeed in. Oh, and by the way, Matt Sales broke and submitted Kyle Nelson. Yeah, you heard that right. Matt Sales submitted Kyle Nelson. Come on. So give me the under. Give me those Blake Bilder second and third round sprinkles. Moving on. Arichi Long going against Aiemann Zahabi. You ever have like a weird feeling in the back of your head, like just yelling at you, like stay away, like stay away? That's what I'm getting here. All my research, my tape study, my analysis, the numbers, everything for me lines up on the Arichi Long side. And I mean everything. I mean, it all points to the Arichi Long side. And even at minus 130 something, I was like, hey, I like Arichi Long at this number. I really do. Now, all of a sudden, Arichi Long is minus 105. That sketches me out. I mean, that really sketches me out. Because who the heck is betting on Aiemann Zahabi, who, first of all, never fights, and second of all, when he does fight, he doesn't fight. He doesn't do anything in there. This guy is so low volume, it's insane. BJJ black belt that refuses to go in there and wrestle. So is he going to take down Arichi Long? Probably not, because he doesn't wrestle. Is he going to outstrike and outland Arichi Long? Probably not, because he doesn't throw anything. So this line movement is baffling to me, and it's almost like, I feel like it's a freaking trap. I feel like something is going on, because I would be shocked. I mean, maybe people are betting Aiemann Zahabi, but I don't get it personally. But I just have that weird feeling in the back of my head. So I think for Zahabi to win, it's probably by knockout, because I just don't see him outworking really anybody. Especially Arichi Long, who's landing over 650 strikes per minute. So I think he'd have to knock out Arichi Long, and Arichi Long's never been knocked out in 33 fights. So this fight sketches me out. I'm tempted on Arichi Long, but this feels sketchy, and I'm going to listen to the voice in the back of my head. Maybe Zahabi does knock him out. Maybe Zahabi does take him down and finally use that wrestling, that BJJ black. But if he does that, he probably makes it look easy. It's just he hasn't shown that in the past. We are in Canada. If this fight goes to decision, we could see a potential robbery, and that's also on the table. That's another reason where I'm like, I just want to stay away from this fight. So it's borderline 100 gambler for me. I have a bad feeling about this one. The pick is going to be Arichi Long, but I think I'm going to stay away. I'm going to stay away from this one. And next we have Miranda Maverick going against Jasmine Jazz DeVicious. So nothing really sticking out here. Just a big price tag here on Maverick. I mean, there's not much you can do. Like, Maverick by decision's minus 145, which is terrible. I think Maverick wins this fight. I think she's better in a lot of areas in this matchup. But minus 310, what are you going to do? The over, probably solid, but it's juiced to the max. I mean, it's minus 350. Nothing's really sticking out on this fight. Give me Miranda Maverick for the win, but don't really see any way in terms of betting it. Unless you want to parlay up Miranda Maverick, which I would not really recommend, but she probably does go out there to win. Moving on, we got Nasruddin Imavov going against Chris Curtis. So yeah, I have a couple bets here. Some spots really stuck out in this fight. So I am, for the record, picking Nasruddin Imavov to win this fight, probably by decision. But my goodness, some of these props on this fight have caught my eye. So first of all, the Chris Curtis scorecards equals no action, aka the finish only at plus money, I think is the way to go. I don't see Chris Curtis getting finished here. If there's a finish in this matchup, I think it's much more likely it comes from the Chris Curtis side and he gets a knockout, right? So I think the Chris Curtis finish only at plus money is a bet for me. I have a half a unit on it at plus 106. It was actually plus 140, plus 150. I completely missed the line. Went to go bet it earlier in the week and it was gone. Yeah, plus 100, any plus money on I think is solid though. Half a unit plus 106. And then these Chris Curtis knockout numbers are wild. Like Chris Curtis by knockout in general is like plus 450. But these Chris Curtis late round knockout props are wild and they caught my attention. I had to sprinkle them because Chris Curtis is probably going to lose the first round. I mean, Chris Curtis tends to lose the first round to start slow. Then he really starts coming on, right? And Chris Curtis hits very hard. Multiple knockouts in the UFC. Nasruddin Imavov never been knocked out, but, Chris Curtis is going to be the fresher guy down the stretch. I can see Imavov slowing down, and Chris Curtis is going to have opportunities late to land a big shot. So I have a quarter unit on Chris Curtis to win by second round knockout, plus 1,200, and then a quarter unit on Chris Curtis to win by third round knockout, plus 2,100. Just crazy numbers there, and I think there's going to be opportunities down the stretch for Chris Curtis to go out there and get a late finish. Another thing is Chris Curtis lost a decision last time that he really strongly felt he won. I think he's going to go out there and try to go out and get a knockout. I think he's going to try to leave this out of the hands of the judges, and rightfully so. Why should you? Why should you take it to the judges who are terrible? So, yeah, I think Chris Curtis late finishes in play. I did sprinkle those KO props, but I think the finish only is the best spot in this fight for Chris Curtis plus money. All right, moving on. We have Marc-Andre Barriault going against Eric Anders. Kinda like the Arichi Long fight. I like Marc-Andre Barriault, and the line's just like moving against me big time. Like I was thinking about maybe betting Marc-Andre Barriault at minus 150, and now he's sitting here at minus 125, and I'm like, man, what's going on? But this line movement makes a little bit more sense. Like I guess I can make a case for Eric Anders, whereas with Amin Sahobby, I'm like, I don't know. I think something's up. But Eric Anders, he can probably go out there. He can wrestle. He can clinch Barriault against the cage, win minutes against the cage. So I see there's a path to victory for Eric Anders, but I do think Marc-Andre Barriault is the much higher volume fighter. I think he has the much better cardio. I see him taking over down the stretch. But yeah, it could be close. So I think it's a fight I'm going to stay away from. I think the overs are fine if you want to lay that. I think the over 2.5 even is like minus 165. Probably not the worst look in the world. If you do really want to play Marc-Andre Barriault, the round 3 or decision prop is plus 140. I think that's a solid way to get the price tag down. But I think I'm going to stay off of this one. The pick is Barriault for me, but no action on this one. All right, we have 4 fights left, and I have action on all 4 of these fights and a lot of action down. So we'll start with Dan Ige, Nate Landwehr. So there were some props that really caught my eye early in the week. So this is a one that everybody seems to be on, which scares me. But I was able to get in very early on this Dan Ige knockout prop. Half a unit, plus 155. Best price now, plus 205, which is still very good. So not some crazy line movement there, but has moved a tad since I did pull the trigger. I think it's a solid look here. And then also Dan Ige scorecards, no action, just like Chris Curtis. The finish only for Dan Ige, minus 220. I have 2.5 units on that as well. I think there's a finish in this matchup. It's much, much, much more likely to come from the Dan Ige side. Dan Ige, 6 losses, never been knocked out, never been submitted, and he's fought some of the top guys in the division. This guy's next level tough, BJJ black belt. I don't see Nate Landwehr finishing him, but I do potentially see Dan Ige finishing Nate Landwehr. Nate Landwehr's been finished 3 of his 4 losses, 2 times in the UFC, and 2 times by knockout, and 2 times in the first round. He got knocked out by Herbert Burns. I know, I can't believe it either. And then he got knocked out by Julian Erosa, both in the first round. Julian Erosa is not typically someone who knocks you out, He's not typically someone that goes out there and knocks you out in the first round, but he knocked out Nate Landwehr. We saw David Onama drop Nate Landwehr. I think Nate Landwehr's a dog. I think if this goes the distance, it's going to be close and competitive, but I think Dan Ige is going to have an opportunity to finish Nate Landwehr really in any point in this fight just because of how reckless Nate Landwehr is, how many openings he leaves. So I do like that Dan Ige knockout prop, plus 255, half a unit, and then especially that finish only, scorecards no action for Dan Ige, 2.5 units, minus 220. Like I said, I think if it does go the distance, it's going to be a fight that I even think Nate Landwehr can pull off, but I really do question the durability a little bit. But I do like those Dan Ige finish props. I think they're very much in play this week. Speaking of finish props, this is my biggest bet of the year. Was able to snag a minus 300 on the fight doesn't go decision for 4.5 units here to win 1.5 units. And yeah, it's around minus 325 now for that fight doesn't go. I like that a lot. I mean, this is a Mike Malott fight. Mike Malott, 9 wins, all 9 wins coming in the first round. One loss came in the first round. This is a guy that gets in and he gets out. He has a ton of power on the feet. He's a black belt in BJJ. We saw how slick he is on the mat in his last fight. We saw it on the Contender Series as well. Very, very good grappling. He's dangerous everywhere, especially early. Adam Fugitt, dangerous everywhere. Adam Fugitt has a ton of power. I've seen him starch guys. Adam Fugitt has, a submission game as well. So both guys knockout power. Both guys submission game. Both guys can be knocked out. Mike Malott, I kind of question the chin. He's been knocked out in his only loss. He's very hittable. So I would not be shocked if Adam Fugitt knocked him out. And then Adam Fugitt's been knocked out twice. He's very hittable. I would not be shocked if Mike Malott knocked him out. So I just think there's so many paths for a finish here. I think it's Mike Malott early, or I think it's Adam Fugitt late, but I think a Fugitt early finish would not shock me as well. I think it's going to be a car crash here. I like the fight doesn't go. My biggest play of the year, 4.5 units. Under 1.5 is solid. It's a lot less chalky, obviously, but I do like getting that extra half of a fight, to be honest. And in this fight, I just wanted to go big on it. It was a violent spot that really stuck out in terms of the numbers, in terms of my stylistic read. I think we get a finish here. I'm going to pick Mike Malott to get the finish in the first round, but I know a lot of people on Fugitt, which makes sense. If this fight does get extended, I think that does heavily favor him, but I think he's going to have to weather a crazy storm, and I'm not sure he does. So give me Mike Malott early finish, but I am heavy on that fight doesn't go. Moving on, another big bet for me, 3 units for the fight doesn't go decision on the Dariush Charles Oliveira fight, minus 200, was able to beat some line movement there. Currently minus 225. So, yeah, I mean, this is the Charles Oliveira fight. This fight doesn't go decision line around minus 220 now, minus 225. I mean, it seems like, I don't know, it seems weird seeing a minus 220, 225 fight doesn't go decision line next to the Charles Oliveira's name. Charles Oliveira, how many fights has this guy got? 42 fights. He has been to decision like 3 times in his entire career. 3 times in his entire career, he's been to decision. As far as I'm, maybe 4. 91% finish rate. He's been finished 8 times out of his 9 losses. Like, look at these losses for the two. Dariush, 4 losses, all inside the distance. Charles Oliveira, 9 losses, 8 inside the distance. So that is 13 losses, 12 of them inside the distance. Charles Oliveira just is about as kill or be killed as you can get. I think just like the last fight, both guys can win by knockout. Both guys can win by sub. Both guys have power. Both guys have legit grappling, dangerous grappling. I think we see a finish here. And I even like the finish more even after hearing Charles Oliveira's interview. He's talking about coming in here, going to war. Same thing with Beneil. He's talking about coming in here, kill or be killed. I like hearing those things, but I think violence is always the way to go in a Charles Oliveira fight. Give me the fight doesn't go when heavy on it. I know a lot of people on the under 2.5, which is fine as well, but I did want to go and get those extra 2.5 minutes just in case, but I don't think we'll need them. Fight doesn't go decision, 3 units, minus 200 there. 2 pretty big plays for me, actually 3 pretty big plays for me on this card. The Ige finish only, and then violence on the Dariush Oliveira, and then the Mike Malott Fugitt fight. All right, and then finally we got the main event, Irene Aldana going against Amanda Nunes, and I have a couple bets here. So, yeah, I mean, I like Nunes, and I like her quite a bit. A lot of people are picking Aldana, and I don't think they're picking her because she's the more skilled fighter, because it's not even close. Amanda Nunes is better in every single aspect of MMA, and it's not even close. I was very disappointed in terms of some of Aldana's fight. I mean, getting dominated by Holly Holm was not a good look. Getting dominated in the second round by Macy Chiasson, and losing the third round up until a Hail Mary upkick to the liver was not a good look, and that was just last fight. I mean, we're not talking years ago. We're talking about last fight. Macy Chiasson dominated Irene Aldana. I mean, let that sink in. So yeah, I mean, I think people are picking Aldana because they're trying to fade Nunes. They're trying to catch her at the right time. Everybody tried to fade her in the last fight against Juliana Pena too. That obviously did not work out. And I guess it really all comes down to, is Amanda Nunes motivated? Does she want to be here? Is she going to retire? I think she is in the near future. Is this her retirement fight? They're all questions you have to ask going forward in Amanda Nunes' fights. But let's put it like this. If Nunes shows up if she's ready to go, if she's motivated, if she's had a solid camp, if she wants to be here, if she wants to be champ, I mean, she should run through Aldana, and she's going to look minus 1,000. This price tag's not going to look wide enough. But I think that's all factored in the price, you know? Because if we knew Nunes was motivated, 120% coming in this fight, she'd be minus like 500. I mean, you could just skill for skill. It's not even close. It's not even debatable. Aldana hits hard, but you know, she got severely outstruck by Holly Holm, and we saw what Amanda Nunes did to Holly Holm, right? Yeah, this it's a kind of like a narrative thing, but I will side with Nunes. I think she makes this look pretty easy. I have one unit on Nunes inside the distance, minus 110. I was able to beat some solid line movement there. Currently around minus 125-ish, 30-ish. I think that's a solid way to bring that price tag down from minus 325 to about a pick'em. And then I think the Amanda Nunes submission prop is sneaky this week. I played a quarter unit on a Nunes by submission plus 575, and then 0.15 units on Nunes sub 1 plus 1,600, and then 0.1 units on Nunes sub 2 plus 2,000. I think the subs lie. I mean, I think the path to least resistance here is the grappling. I mean, like I said, we just saw what Macy Chiasson was able to do on the mat with Aldana. She took her back, she got him out. I think Nunes can take her down, and I think she will take her down. Because Aldana, she's a good striker, high volume, tons of power. Why won't Nunes just take her down, not even worry about the power of Aldana on the feet? And I think if she does take her down, gets on top, I think she dominates her, and I think the submission's in play. Obviously, it could be a knockout. That's why I do like the inside the distance for Nunes more, but I think those sub props were just way too good for me to pass up. So give me Nunes by hopefully first round submission. But yeah, guys, that is about it. Tons of action on the card. I think there's some very good spots this week, some sketchy spots, but some very good spots overall. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like on your way out. Subscribe to the channel. I do appreciate that a ton. Check out dfsbythenumbers.com. I'll be getting out some early content for UFC Vegas 75, which is a very, very good card next week as well. And yeah, other than that, best of luck for UFC 289. We'll talk to you guys soon, and see you.